after this message from our sponsor, Teamsters 1932, a strong union with 14,000 members in the IE. Go to Teamsters1932.org for more information. Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting Teamsters1932.org/organize to start today. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, inviting you to listen to my show during the noon hour every weekday right here on KCAA. My show is sponsored locally by Teamsters 1932, a strong union with 14,000 members in the IE. Our message is clear. Unions improve the lives of working people. You have a right to form and join a union, so go to Teamsters1932.org and get started now.
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. Are you looking for a good union job? The Inland Empire's 14,000-member-strong Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get working people trained and placed in open positions in public service clerical work and in jobs in the logistics industry. This is a new opportunity to advance your career and raise standards across the region. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. Are you graduating high school soon and wondering what to do next? College is one option, but why not consider the high-paying jobs made possible by union power? Labor Union Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get you into the high school to high-paying job pipeline. You'll learn all the skills needed to excel in opportunities across industries. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is The Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Another hearing, number 4 of the January 6th committee hearings, and by far, in my view, the most compelling of the hearings. One jaw-dropping one-liner after another, dagger after dagger in the heart of the failed coup. Trump not happy. Trump very unhappy. In fact, went after the Arizona Speaker of the House, Rusty Bowers, just before Bowers was to testify. Trump accused him of being a rhino, which, if you know anything about this guy, not a rhino. This guy is ideological way right. This is not, I know everyone's saying, oh, he's a hero, he's great, oh, he's amazing. No. This guy way out there. Just happens to be that he has a bit of integrity in, maybe the oath of office thing, kind of important. But Trump, came out and said that, Bowers told him that that the election was rigged and that Trump won. Evidently in some delusional conversation that Trump had with this guy. Just made it up. Now, interestingly enough, the conversations that you heard today, and I was waiting for the perfect, the beautiful phone call, the one between Trump and Brad Raffensperger. I couldn't get past, And we've all heard it. Trump wanted Raffensperger to find, whatever find means, to find 11,800 votes, because he needs one more. But he went into this rant about how, I know I've won by 400,000 votes. And my thought is, well, here's the thing. This is where the delusion comes in. I only need 11,800. But if you're claiming you won by 400,000, why aren't you asking for 400,000? I mean, if they're there, and you know they're there, and the proof is supposedly somewhere there, why aren't you asking for what you're rightfully entitled to? Look, I've argued grievances, and I've done things in the past where I've gone, I feel cheated. I've wanted what I've been entitled to. So if Trump truly believed this, and this just wasn't a power grab, a delusional power grab, why isn't he calling for the 400,000 votes that he seems to think he believes he won by? Now, look, Bowers, by far, in my view, the most compelling of witnesses, probably one of the most compelling witnesses ever in a congressional hearing. I mean, he was authentic. He was emotional. I thought at one point he was going to burst into tears. Steal a Bill Clinton line. You could feel his pain. And look, not a great guy. I'm not going there. I know everyone's, no, he's a hero. No. He stood up in a moment where millions of Americans of the past have done. He stood on his principle. He stood on his oath. He stood on his word. Only now in this era of Trump is that really an amazing feat, I think. I go back to my grandparents' generation. One of the things my grandfather instilled in me is, you got two things in this world. And every man knows this. You got your boys and you got your word. And you don't break either one of them. And your word being the most important thing. You never break your word. And a true test of someone's character is what they do in that moment when their word is in jeopardy. When they can't keep their word or someone's attacking them. This guy, I give him credit. He deserves the credit that he deserves. In this moment, he stood his ground and stood his word. I'll give him that. Same thing with Raffensperger. Same thing with Gabriel Sterling. Look, overwhelming. I can't imagine the pressure these people were under. And the stories that they told, look, these are Republicans getting beat up by Republicans. And oddly enough, here's something else that caught my attention. And I want to hear your thoughts too. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. I found it interesting that a number of people quoted scripture, talked about religion, in this context of faith and religiosity. Yet these are the same evangelical type minds that said, Trump was our guy, that they could forgive all of the sins of the Trump, that God sent him to us. I still remember someone telling me the story, and it's a really bizarre, how God sent a person on a rowboat to save somebody, and you sent him away because he wasn't perfect, and God sent somebody else to rescue you in another situation, but that person wasn't perfect, but they were sent anyway. And Trump's not perfect, but he's who was sent. He was the vessel of our Savior. Not so much. And I just find it interesting that this is where we've gotten. Now, I listened to Sterling, Gabriel Sterling, tell his story. He was an election official in Georgia, going, look, there's no fact here. Stop. There's no evidence that there's fraud. None of the stuff that you're saying is true. His quote was, it's kind of like a shovel trying to empty the ocean. It was frustrating. I even have family members who I had to argue with about some of the things. I show them things, and the problem you have is you're getting to people's hearts. Once you get past the heart, the facts don't matter as much. And this is where things are. People have vested in Trump well beyond reason. And I've never believed that much in any politician that some of my Trump supporter friends have put into a guy who's always been viewed as a con man. And I guess that's the greatest con of all. You look at all of these people around him that bought it. Absolutely bought it. I mean, it's remarkable. And what I found most interesting, and what I as I'm watching these hearings, what I'm finding even more interesting is the two different faces, the Janus face of the Republican. I look at Ronna McDaniel. For those who don't know, Ronna is the chairwoman of the RNC. Publicly, she's, all Team Trump. Publicly, she's all, Team GOP, pushing the line, pushing the corporate line, all of that. But in her testimony, what we saw, she threw Trump right under the bus. There's no way that there's any deniability by Trump at this moment that he didn't know that the fake electors were happening, because she put him directly in the middle of introducing her to John Eastman. There is no gray area. There is a direct line from Eastman to Trump to McDaniel. There's no gray area. This is it. So, I look at this and I'm going, but hold on, but I remember, her, the company line, it's all rigged, it's all this, it's all that. But, when she was under oath, all a different scenario. Same thing with the daughter. Ivanka evidently was interviewed. Here's another beautiful thing. Our former TV president actually had a documentary crew following him around the last 6 weeks that nobody knew about. Evidently, none of the inner circle realized that there was a crew following. And I don't know how you don't know. Now, look, I know that there's always an entourage following the president. There are cameras everywhere. But how do you not know in intimate settings that there's a strange guy over here with a camera recording everything, who has access that nobody else has? But evidently, this guy interviewed Ivanka Trump, who basically told an entirely different view to this filmmaker that she told under oath. And this again, as I've been saying all along, is the fascinating part of putting your hand on that book and saying, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me, God. Because the person with the robe can throw your behind in jail. I just find it quite interesting how that worked. And the number of people throwing the Trump under the bus. And look, even the F channel is now going, well, there's some voices over there going, well, maybe he did commit a crime. Oops. There's going to be a pivot. It's going to happen very soon, because these hearings, for all of the MAGA, there's nothing to see, move along. For all of the Jim Jordans, nobody's paying attention. People are paying attention. When they're saying nobody's paying attention, people are paying attention. And there's going to be a pivot. And that pivot is going to be turning on Trump. And that is going to be fairly entertaining, because it'll be interesting to watch him then just go full on scorched earth. Now, another interesting story that came out, and this is still developing, I understand. Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, it's being reported that evidently a package was delivered to his office. It had the fake elector forms in there that evidently his staffers were going to hand deliver to Mike Pence. There was some talk of that maybe Ron Johnson was going to take it and hand deliver it. Pence's office said, no, don't. It didn't happen. Ron Johnson is running away from this as fast as humanly possible, trying to claim, no, I didn't know anything. I wouldn't do it. I don't know what I believe in there. I've heard Ron Johnson speak. I got to tell you, don't believe a word of it. He was eyeball deep in all of this. Going to be interesting to see where this goes. Now, again, the one-liners were plentiful. Benny Thompson, the chairman, said, the lie hasn't gone away. It's corrupting our democratic institutions. And he pointed out, look, you got a bunch of these people who have committed to the big lie, who have internalized the big lie, who are living the big lie. Oh, no, it's the election was stolen. Now running for positions of power that they could do what Trump wanted. All of these Republicans, line them all up. Raffensperger, Bowers, Pence, all of these people, all of these witnesses, to do what Trump wanted to do. And the chaos that could come out of that, it's crazy. Former Attorney General Bill Barr said we didn't see any evidence of fraud in the Fulton County episode. Like it's a TV drama. I guess this is where we've gone. Liz Cheney said each of these efforts to overturn the election is independently serious. Each deserves attention by both Congress and the Department of Justice. Hey, Merrick Garland. Where are you, Merrick? It's time. It's time. It's time to start looking at this, because Adam Schiff was right. The system held, but barely. The next time around, the question is, does it hold? Now, there were a couple of lines that really caught the attention. Speaker Bowers said, I don't want to be a winner by cheating. And I think a lot of people, grabbed onto that. He said also that this is a tragic parody. Yeah. But one of my favorite lines was something that evidently Rudy Giuliani told Bowers. We've got a lot of theories. We just don't have the evidence. And if we were going to sum up this entire hearing, I think that's it. We've got a lot of theories. We just haven't concocted enough evidence yet. Interesting day. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you paid attention, if you watched, do you agree with me? Was this the most compelling of the four? I just found it fascinating. The phone calls, the audio, something to be desired. You figure, they'd have better than that. But I thought today was bombshells. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425 if you want to weigh in on what you thought of the hearing. And really, should we be looking at not just criminal charges for Trump, but start looking at some of these other co-conspirators? The Eastman looking for a pardon even then. Some of the Congress people. Interesting. Quick break. Right back after this. If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our Labor History in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. Generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So the Donald applauded the Texas Republicans. They've got a platform. They do. Hey, look, here's the thing. I guess at a certain level, you got to give credit to the Texas Republicans. At least they have a platform, as where the National Republican Party, not so much. They just said whatever Donald wants. Whatever King Lear wants. That's where we'll go. Now, he was clearly praising the Republicans in Texas for their position that Joe Biden was not legitimately elected. That plays into his frame, makes him very happy. But here's the scary part about their platform. One of the little tenets in there, and get ready for this, and we'll probably talk a lot about this in the coming days. They want to move to a state level, like an electoral college kind of voting scheme. Because what they realize, they realize their stranglehold on the state of Texas is probably going to go away, that it's becoming more democratic, and they're probably going to have to start competing with actual ideas, and that their hate and their division and all of the things that they've been doing not really going to be very saleable in the coming years. So they've got to figure out how to, well, gerrymander and, well, make those votes not really count. Yay. And look, this is going to start in Texas. I can see that coming to Pennsylvania as they can't win statewide elections here. This is a great way to use that gerrymandering power. Anyway, let's go to the phones. Got Alice on line 1. Alice, how are we today?
We're okay. How are you?
I'm good. What's on your mind? Did you watch the big hearing?
Yes, I did. We watched most of it, and my husband and I were just sitting there shaking our heads because, they're sitting here naming names, and they've got the evidence right there, and it's like, when are we going to start hauling people up and locking them up? And I'm telling my husband, I said, well, last night, Bob Ney and you talking about, the fake electors. And I was telling my husband, I said, I know for a fact because one of the men who helped write some legislation was on, the Rick Smith show. And my husband's going, so what's the holdup? I'm going, apparently we can't make people cry because they did something bad. I don't know. But I think everyone that's got any sense, which is probably about 70% of us that's watching the hearings, we are sick of seeing these people have nothing happen to them when they've done something that's illegal, and they do it over and over. And again, as for the dingbats in Texas, and I still have relatives down there, they're just insane. And it's like, what makes you think that once you do that we're going to let you keep all the, the forts and that all the companies down there are going to stay? Because I don't think they are. You just got to shake your head and go, oh my God. In fact, my neighbor across the street, that's the evangelical, she and I were kind of sort of talking today, and you got to dance around easy with her. But she was saying, Reagan did not do anyone any favors when he got closed all the mental hospitals. There seems to be a lot of crazy people. And I said, you have never spoke truer words. So
there's truth
I
there.
don't know.
I'm right there with you.
Yep.
Thanks, Alice. Appreciate
so you
it.
have a good evening.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm right there. We've got a lot of mental health issues. Most certainly need to be working on this. But I look at this move toward an electoral college scenario. This is the way that the rural communities have figured out how to dominate the cities, the urbans, and this is the next fight in this. This is like a state like Pennsylvania, where you're going to gerrymander things in a way that statewide elections then start going the other way. Get ready for this kind of a mentality to be in other states, if they can do it. Now, again, who knows with our crazy Supreme Court? Who knows? For instance, there was a 7-2 decision today that evidently the court decided that a conviction for attempted robbery under the Federal Hobbs Act, which again gets into a whole bunch of different things. It's a definition of a crime of violence. But evidently, just by having the gun now isn't now considered a violent crime to trigger this enhanced sentencing. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, is this about the gun now? I mean, are we backing off of that? Dangerous waters, in my view. But scary. Also, Supreme Court decided that they're going to be able to use taxpayer dollars to fund religious schools. That's kind of new. And as I said earlier today, this is the wet dream of God Incorporated. Because if they can get their hands into the education money, this is, oh my gosh, this is a game changer for them. This is how they finish off public education. Because I actually know people who their game plan is The big plan is to make sure that dollars are attached to students, that every student is worth X amount of dollars. This is what the charter movement has done masterfully, that each student's worth 10 grand so that they can get the head in the door, cha-ching, 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 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand. Where the religious community wants to take the homeschool folks, their goal is to go, no, no, no. What we want to do is we want to start our own church schools. We want to start our own these schools, and then each of our own kids, we get 10 grand. So we got 4 kids. We make 40 grand a year educating our own kids, and the state's going to then pay us for this. That's the goal. And this is, I think, a step in moving in that direction. At the end of the day, this is another step towards destroying public education, of which I think is vital to our community. And as you know, I'm someone who believes in community. I think what's happened over the last 40 years, she brought up Reagan a minute ago. One of the great disasters of the Reagan Revolution was he tore us apart. This idea that we're all hyper individuals and we're all, you're on your own, the one who with the most toys when they die wins, greed is good. That ripped our communities and ripped us apart. We need things that are going to pull us back together. We need things that are going to make us one again, make us a nation again. Not more ripping and shredding and hyper individualism. Just my thought. Love to hear yours. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Got lots to get to. If you miss any of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Always there, always available. Wherever you get your favorite podcasts, make sure you check that out. Like, share, subscribe, make a comment or two. Quick break, right back after this. Stick around. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1943. That was the day United Mine Workers President John L. Lewis issued strike orders at the nation's mines, calling out more than 500,000 miners. The third general coal strike in 3 months defied the wartime no-strike pledge. Miners raised several demands, including wage increases, an end to the dangerous third shift, and portal-to-portal pay. High wartime inflation only worsened miners' already low wages. Early that spring, Lewis denounced the mine owners, the War Labor Board, and the Little Steel formula used to calculate wartime wages. He warned the formula meant starvation for workers and the end of collective bargaining. By April, President Roosevelt had ordered wage freezes. Miners began walking out of the pits even before the strike call, as soon as the War Labor Board handed down their decision on June 19th. The board had rejected all of the miners' demands. The United Mine Workers responded stating, quote, "No member and no officer of the United Mine Workers of America would be so destitute of principle and so devoid of honor as to sign or execute such an infamous yellow dog contract." Though the United Mine Workers were forced to call off the strike the next day, some miners continued to stay out in protest. 4 days later, Congress passed the dreaded Smith-Conley Act, dubbed the Slave Labor Bill, in response to the strike. Throughout the summer, miners across the country would rage against the government for threatening them with conscription and jail time if they dared refuse the terms of the decision. By November, the miners would walk out a 4th time and finally win many of their demands, at least from the War Labor Board. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter @LaborHistoryIn2.
Right before our eyes, an invaluable American species is fast disappearing from view. Cartoonus americanus. These are newspaper cartoonists who've long delighted readers and infuriated power elites. And there's nothing natural about their sudden decline. It's not the result of a dwindling talent pool, and certainly not due to a lack of political targets. Rather, what's happening is that their media habitat is being intentionally destroyed. Around the start of the 20th century, some 2,000 newspapers featured their own full-time cartoonists. But in just the last decade, those healthy media environments have shriveled. So now, only a couple of dozen newspapers have these vibrant artistic journalists on staff. One major reason is that most U.S. papers have been gobbled up by profiteering hedge funds that have merged, purged, and plundered these essential local sources of news and democratic discourse. The overriding interest of these Wall Street owners is to cash out a paper's financial assets and haul off the booty to boost their personal wealth. Journalism and democracy be damned. Thus, they view cartoonists as a paycheck that can be easily diverted into their corporate pockets, dismissing the fact that enjoying good local cartoonists ranks as one of the top reasons people give for buying the paper. Note that this mass extermination is not old-school media censorship, but sleight-of-hand money censorship by the new monopolistic order of newspapering. Political cartoonists are still free to express any opinion they want, but the Wall Street system locks them out of their primary marketplace. Censorship is ugly, but eliminating paychecks, well, that's just business. This is Jim Hightower saying, yet these freewheeling spirits of the cartooning craft are inventing new ways to connect with America's strong demand for their fun and important work. To connect with them, go to editorialcartoonist.com.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I got to tell you, I'm looking at this Rick Scott. Oh, the entitlement. Oh, the privilege of Mr. Scott. The Florida senator who's worth about $250 million. Evidently, he recently introduced a plan to raise taxes on you, me, the working class of the country, while ensuring that he and his wealthy ilk, their tax cuts are permanent. This is the same guy who wants to gut Social Security, same guy who wants to kick poor people off of food stamps. Evidently just said that Americans are the most spoiled people on earth. Yeah, evidently. This from the guy who oversaw the largest Medicare fraud in the history of the country while he was CEO of Columbia HCA. Do you feel spoiled? Wow, we're in very, very bizarre times. Anyway, good news today. The Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act evidently went into effect today. The question is how will the Biden administration, how will they enforce that? And here to share some thoughts on how we ensure that it is enforced properly and how we take on what's going on with China right now. I've asked our good friend Scott Paul to come talk with us. Scott is the president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing, AmericanManufacturing.org, their website. Scott, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, it is great to be with you tonight.
So walk me through, what is this Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, and why should we care about this?
Yeah, it's a great question, and you teed this up perfectly with Rick Scott. So ironically, the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act came about as the result of Marco Rubio, Republican from Florida, Jim McGovern, a progressive Democrat from Massachusetts, a lot of human rights groups, the labor community, we fought for it. It's one of those rare things, and you know this, that how rare it is to see something passed unanimously. I think maybe Rand Paul opposed it. He opposes everything, as you know, but extraordinarily, this passed the Congress almost unanimously. And here's what it does. Here's why it's important. The Uyghurs are a Muslim ethnic population in Western China. Chinese Communist Party has systematically over the last 20 years tried to decimate Uyghur culture, obviously their faith tradition. And it's done this through means that the United States and others have called a genocide, because it's not only just trying to destroy the culture. There's also sterilization. There's internment. There's harassment of Uyghurs abroad, and there is a massive program of forced labor where Uyghurs are put into large, what they will call dormitory facilities, which are prisons essentially, and then sent to the shop floor. And they are making some of the products that Americans consume, mostly unknowingly, right? So if you buy an imported shirt, there is a pretty reasonable chance that cotton from Xinjiang is in that shirt, and that it was produced or processed in some part by Uyghur forced labor. Same with some types of processed tomato products. Same with some types of materials that go into solar panels that are installed. Same as goes for a lot of the rare earth minerals that end up in lithium ion batteries that we use not only for electric vehicles, but for a lot of things these days, Rick. And so the idea, if the idea of forced labor is abhorrent to you or genocide, and it is to me, I imagine it is to everybody, then we should be banning goods that are coming from that region that are, the odds are really good that they were made with forced labor. And so there's a law that banned it. It went into effect today. It's going to change the business model, or it should, for a lot of companies, but it's also exposed, a lot of other issues. And you have like these fast fashion brands that are, that are very concerned about how it's going to be implemented, because, their business model leans heavily on that kind of exploitation. So that's, let's celebrate the fact that we got something done.
Yeah.
But we also, the fact that we had to do something is really mind-boggling. And then we got to make sure that it has teeth, that we're actually following through on this.
Yeah, it's one thing to actually to get this passed, and the whole other thing to actually do something, because, hey, inflation. We'd love to do something about it, but inflation.
Yeah. I mean, and that's certainly an argument that some of the importers will make. And I'll say, they've been very crafty about this, Rick, because no one wants to say, yeah, we like forced labor. I mean, they can't get away with saying that. So, they'll use very, very intentional phrasing of things about let's partner on this. Let's phase this in. Let's give us the benefit of the doubt if we prove one shipment, and then the rest will be fine, right?
I love corporate
we want to work
speak.
with you on this. So it's a lot of double speak, right? And exactly. And we're saying, look, none of these guys deserve the benefit of the doubt because they've been exploiting the system. They've known about it. They've certainly know about it. There's no possible way they didn't know about it. They just didn't care.
No, and there's no way I can trust the Chinese Communist Party to ever tell the truth. I don't even know that I don't even know trust but verify is even. I just don't ever trust.
Yeah. Well, you're right. In general, I think it's very hard to do that, specifically with respect to this region. There's no international monitoring that's even allowed now. So we couldn't even, we couldn't even tell, right? If they're, it's, and so the approach of the human rights groups has been to say, look, we have to assume the worst here, because we've seen documentation of a lot of the worst, and we can't get them in there every day. And so companies should adopt the same policy. They should just leave. They should find another source.
Listen to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing, AmericanManufacturing.org, their website, if you want to check out the work that they do. If you got a question, comment, thought, something for Scott, give us a call, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Would you buy something that you knew was had forced labor in it, slave labor, something that someone was put in this situation over? I'd like to hear it. But I'm looking at this, and we're in a moment, Scott, where, China becoming much more muscular. They just put out a new aircraft carrier, I guess it is, a new defense vehicle, whatever you want to call it, an aircraft carrier, right? State of the art kind of thing. Becoming much more muscular in surveillance. I mean, the surveillance state is just, oh my gosh, every bit of data being collected, every step being monitored. The brave new world, not great.
Yeah. And so, there's a lot of concerning actions. And let's be clear, our government has surveilled in the past in ways that were, not lawful. And they've been held to account for that. The difference is we have the ability to change the government at the ballot box. Chinese people do not. And here's what's happening. And first, you mentioned the military buildup. It's concerning. I mean, China has the largest navy in the world now, and it's declared the maritime region between Taiwan and China to be not international, to be essentially all Chinese waters, and that raises serious concerns. This reminds me a lot of Putin's steps, right? Starting with in Georgia and in Crimea, and now in Ukraine, of like this creeping like territorialism that leads to conflict. So that's concerning internally, and I think this is important. The New York Times has done an extensive amount of research on this, that the amount of data, the amount of video footage, the amount of artificial intelligence that goes into this, the amount of facial recognition tools and other sorts of biometric data that the Chinese Communist Party, the government uses, is astounding. It's really unbelievable. And it gives the Chinese Communist Party an additional tool of repression for anyone who dares to disagree with it, basically. There's nowhere to hide, literally, now. And it's problematic for a couple of reasons. First of all, the U.S. either handed or through theft, aided and abetted in the development of a lot of this technology. I mean, it's been taken over by Chinese national companies now, and I'm not alleging or that Apple or Google or anybody like that is involved in this scheme, but certainly the fact that they had a presence in China, and some of their technology was utilized for this. I think that's the angle there, but it is super concerning because this means that China, that the party is going to extend its reach further into China, and look for this surveillance technique to be used against Chinese citizens abroad and others who happen to disagree with it, like Uyghur dissidents or others who are in the United States. And so we have to think very carefully about how we approach this and what kind of sanctions are necessary, and still also the need to speak out.
Yeah, no. See, I'm in this position, Scott, where right now we've got to decide which way we're going as a country and which way we're going as a globe, because there is a Cold War going on right now. I just don't think most Americans get it. We're so divided internally that I don't think we're paying attention to what's going on internationally. And the Chinese, as you've pointed out, are growing much more muscular. They view themselves as the leader for the next 100 years or on beyond that. And they are gaining the tools to take that control. We have a brief window. Yeah. And I know people right now are going, well, inflation's high. We need to do things to lower gas prices and make life easier here. But hey, things are bad internationally. Right. I have someone who keeps emailing me every day. Why isn't Joe Biden getting rid of the tariffs? I'm going, well, because this would not be great with our relations with China. It's going to continue to exacerbate our manufacturing problems. There's so many things that we should be doing outside of this other than making China stronger. I guess. Let me ask you that. Yeah. Should we be doing away with these tariffs?
Yeah, the answer to that, Rick, is no. There are tariffs in place against hundreds of billions of dollars in Chinese imports. They're there for a reason, because China has cheated the international trade system. And as you pointed out, a lot of these practices have cost us jobs, have cost us technology, have devastated entire communities. And there ought to be some economic leverage that's employed either to get the Chinese Communist Party to change its behavior or to encourage firms to get out of there and find other sources for these products for consumers in the United States. And if you take these tariffs away, you lose that bit of leverage. But here's the other thing. Even the most wildly optimistic scenario about the impact of eliminating these tariffs on inflation is basically a rounding error. It doesn't even get to 1%. Right? I mean, it's not even close. It's closer to 0% than 1%. and we lose an extraordinary amount of leverage. And I'll just add that, a National Retail Federation spokesperson, which favors lifting the tariffs, even said, you know what, I don't know if consumers are going to see any impact at the end of this. So there you have it. I mean, their motivation is to make more profit, and they certainly will make more profit if the tariffs go away. But consumers aren't going to see it. This isn't going to help with gas prices. It's not going to help with food prices. It's not going to help with airline tickets. It's not going to help with home prices. It's not going to help with used car prices. It's not going to help with new car prices. There is nothing you can name in the leading drivers of inflation right now where this is going to help a single bit. So it would be a huge mistake for this administration to unilaterally withdraw the tariffs at this time or at any time until we have a plan B on how to structure our economy so that we can create jobs here or find other sources for some of these products.
Is there a plan B? I mean, I'm looking at this, and I'm sadly, and we've been talking about this for years. This isn't new. Yeah. We are on this path to where we've given away our manufacturing prowess. I mean, we were the leader, the global leader in manufacturing for 100 years, and we handed that away. Right. That was not something, there wasn't a competition. We didn't lose a fight. We handed it off for more profits for big corporations to hand out to their shareholders and their CEOs. Yeah. This wasn't a fair fight. This was a here, take it. We get to have cheap labor and lax environmental regulations. Yeah. Now we're looking down the barrel of a changed globe, not just here at home, but all around the world, a surveillance state globe. I got to tell you, I'm not thrilled with the prospect for my children.
I understand, and there's a lot of things to be concerned about, from the political climate in the United States to the global climate and the way in which it's changing, to this development of a more authoritarian and muscular kind of opposition. I mean, all of this is deeply concerning. I will say, I do think we have a plan B. I think it a lot of it has to do with investment at home to make sure that we're competitive and to have the capacity to do that. I think this administration does understand that. I still think that we're so afraid of scale here, Rick, and I'll just give you an example. We're quibbling right now over $50 billion to revitalize the semiconductor industry and other technology industries in the United States, something that we would need to accomplish this, right? China is proceeding with $150 billion in incentives for semiconductor production. And it'll just do it, right? And I'm not saying we should be like China that way at all, but we need to get our act together here, and we need to do this, and we need to do it in a way that's going to create jobs, because I do want to see Intel come to Ohio, and I want to see all these other investments made. I think it's very, very important. So there's a plan. Whether we can scale it up enough or do it quickly enough, I mean, that's a question that we haven't answered yet. Right?
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do, and maybe we start by banning any of the things that come into this country, and use this Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act as the rationale for banning anything right there and then. At least that's my thought. But Scott, I appreciate the time. As always, great stuff.
Rick, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good stuff. Our good friend Scott Paul. Make sure you check out their website, AmericanManufacturing.org. We'll get links out on social media. You can check out that stuff there. Love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. You got a thought, question, comment? Give us a call. Also, if you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Always there, always available. Quick break. Right back. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1877. That was the day that 10 Irish miners were hung in Pennsylvania. They were part of a group of 20 who had been sentenced to death for allegedly being part of the Molly Maguires, a group of alleged radical Irish miners. Miners were on strike in the Schuylkill County anthracite coal region. The Mollies were accused of perpetrating violence and murder against the mine owners. Newspapers helped to rile up anger against the striking Irish miners. A Pinkerton detective infiltrated the group, and his testimony doomed those he accused to the gallows. Since the hangings, many have questioned his testimony and the cases made against the miners. But at the time, many newspapers celebrated the hangings. On the day of the executions, the New York Tribune called the men, quote, the wild beasts of the collieries of eastern Pennsylvania. The Carbon Advocate of Lehighton, Pennsylvania, declared the majesty of the law has been vindicated. The community breathes more freely now that these men who feared neither the laws of God or man have met their doom. The day has gone down in labor history as the Day of the Rope, or Black Thursday. The message of the hanging was meant to be sent to all who would dare stand up against the mine owners. In 1979, the governor of Pennsylvania posthumously pardoned John Blackjack Kehoe, one of the alleged leaders of HistoryIn2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So I got an email, someone flipping their mind, sent me this story by David Sirota, who points out that the Biden team has appointed or nominated this guy Andrew Biggs, who not someone I'm fond of, someone I met a number of years back here in Pennsylvania when we were going through some pension issues at the state level. They brought him in, the right wing brought him in as the great destroyer. He was with the American Enterprise Institute. The idea that we privatize everything and, well, no pensions for workers, screw them. He has been put, and this is just, it blew my mind when I got sent the article and questioned why Joe Biden would nominate this person to sit on this pretty key board that oversees Social Security and Medicare, because this guy is truly a hater of the program, someone who clearly would want to see it privatized. But this bipartisan Social Security Advisory Board, I guess, was started back in '94 to consult the president and Congress about Social Security and the system and all the health of it. Evidently, there has to be a Republican on it. So this is why they chose this guy. I have no idea. I think he's terrible. I think this is probably the worst choice you could have made. But this is where they've gone. So when the person sent me this, my first reaction is, this has to be a mistake. It has to be a joke. Then part of me goes, well, wait a second. This is probably who a Republican put forth. There's part of a deal going on. This is probably a trade thing going on. And Republicans are moving to, want to cut and gut Social Security, because you look at the Rick Scott plan. Scott wants to gut Social Security. This has been their wet dream for, decades. They have wanted to privatize that Social Security money. You go back to the Bush years, where they almost did. And boy, aren't you glad they didn't? You think about the massive collapse in 2008. You think about the massive, Wall Street downturns that could have just eviscerated your Social Security, especially if you're at that retirement age. But having people like this on those boards, kind of concerning to me. Now, these are people who want to raise the Social Security retirement age. These are people who want to diminish the benefit, do away with the cost of living adjustment. These are people who, seriously, there should be no security in old age. I'm one of the people who believe the three-legged stool. The old FDR three-legged stool. You get a little bit of Social Security, a little bit defined benefit pension, which I know is no longer something that happens in this country, and your savings. The money that you squirrel away through when you're working, however you do that through, 401k, IRA, basic savings account, or maybe a tin can in the backyard. I don't know. But you have that solid three-legged stool. Sadly, over the last 40 years, what you've seen is, Wages haven't kept up with inflation. People are struggling to get by. So one of the legs has been sawed off and taken away, your ability to save a little bit of money. The defined benefit pension has been totally eviscerated. Corporate America has stolen that and given you these wonderful defined contribution plans. How are those working out? Sadly, for the vast majority of people, not so well. And then there's Social Security, and they want to whittle that down. Why? So they can keep you desperate. So they can keep people, working till the day they die. Because no one should enjoy their golden years. No one should enjoy a retirement, evidently. This is the world conservatives want to take us to. Now they'll say, but Rick, no. If you were responsible your whole life and you saved, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be. You should be saving. You should be putting money into a retirement account. My 16-year-old has a retirement account. We set that up for the day he got his first job. Same thing with my oldest child, and we'll do it for my youngest one. The second you get a job, you start squirreling a little bit of money away, so that when you get to retirement age, you're going to have something. But that doesn't mean you forego all else. It doesn't mean you get to destroy Social Security. It surely doesn't mean that you get to destroy defined benefit pensions and have no recourse. It's just crazy. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you download the podcast. Never miss a moment. Also, I want to hear your thoughts. You got questions? You got comments? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. So much going on.
The mercury is rising all across Western Europe.
Extreme heat in Europe smashes records, sparks wildfires, and water rationing. Severe U.S. heat wave killed thousands of cattle. Plus,
madness is coming, and all we can do is try to prepare for it as best we can.
Right-wing Supreme Court majority poised to hand down the most consequential environmental ruling in decades.
All of those consequences and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
The things that we're starting to see now become much worse, and we get extremes that we haven't even seen before.
It's going to get worse?
Much worse.
Who asked you? This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, sweltering heat in Europe, here in the U.S. Cattle dying, people dying. This is not good.
No, it most definitely is not, and it is very unusual. In Europe, an historic heat wave is blanketing Europe from London to the Mediterranean, with temperatures 20 to 30 degrees above normal, shattering all-time temperature records for the month of June and sparking wildfires in Spain, Germany, and France. Southern France hit a record high of 110 degrees Fahrenheit.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Or provides similar relief and wants oil companies to refine more and charge less.
I'm doing my part. I want the Congress, the states, and the industry to do their part as well.
But the president's past bids to lower prices have done little, and the gas tax holiday idea is largely unpopular among both parties. Senate GOP Chief Mitch McConnell calls it silly.
Another ineffective stunt.
Congressional Democrats have long worried suspending the tax would just give oil companies more profits, with no guarantee drivers would benefit at the pump. Sagar Magani at the White House.
On Capitol Hill, Fed Chair Jerome Powell says gas prices are weighing on the economy.
The surge in prices of crude oil and other commodities that resulted from Russia's invasion of Ukraine is boosting prices for gasoline and fuel and is creating additional upward pressure on inflation.
Powell says the Fed will assess interest rates on a meeting-by-meeting basis. Police in San Francisco are looking for a suspect. Shots were fired on a subway train. One person was killed, another person injured. Wisconsin Democratic Governor Tony Evers' bid to repeal the state's dormant abortion ban failed after Republican lawmakers convened and immediately adjourned a special session without taking any action. Several thousand cars, trucks, and recreational vehicles are backed up in long lines at entrances to Yellowstone National Park as it partially reopened today following record floods. The cost and scope of the damage from the floods is still being assessed. This is AP News.
KCAA.
This segment is sponsored by Dickey's Barbecue, now in Yucaipa at 33562 Yucaipa Boulevard in the Vaughn Shopping Center. Dickey's Barbecue, where you can get sauced with 5 delicious barbecue sauces. For the holidays, there's the Dickey's Holiday Feast options. Everything you need for a festive gathering with delicious hassle-free meals that you